One of the most fascinating topics in end-time prophecy is the role the Antichrist will play in the last days. According to the late prophecy expert, Dr. Chuck Missler, the Antichrist has 33 titles in the Old Testament and 13 in the New Testament, including the lawless one, the man of sin, the beast, the son of perdition, and many others. Needless to say, the Antichrist will play a major role in the world during the final 7 years of this age, during the tribulation. And for that reason, many have speculated through the ages about who the Antichrist is and wondered if he's in the world right now. And if he is in the world right now, can we know who he is? In this teaching, I want to look at 4 men in the world right now who are the most searched online as possible candidates to be the Antichrist. And the purpose of this isn't to prove one way or the other if they are in fact the Antichrist, because I don't believe anyone can know for sure until after the rapture of the church. And here's why I believe that. This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. We're going to begin in verse 1. I want you to notice now the context of what the Apostle Paul is saying here. He says, "Now, brethren, concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and our gathering together to him, we ask you not to be soon shaken in mind or troubled either by spirit or by word or by letter, as if from us, as though the day of Christ had come. Let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come unless the falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition," that's the Antichrist, "who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Do you not remember that when I was still with you, I told you these things, and now you know what is restraining, that he may be revealed in his own time. For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Only he who now restrains will do so until he is taken out of the way. And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth and destroy with the brightness of his coming." So Paul is very clearly talking about Jesus' return, about his return and our gathering together with him. And he's saying, hey, it's not going to happen until there's a great falling away from truth and the Antichrist is revealed. He goes on to say, he who now restrains will do so until he is taken out of the way. That's capital H. That's the Holy Spirit in the church. Then the lawless one will be revealed. That word then means right then. It's sequential. There's going to be the rapture, and then now the Antichrist will be in the world. When the rapture happens, the Antichrist is going to be active in the world. And I believe he's in the world today. And so there's going to be this rapturing of the church. Then the Antichrist is going to be revealed. The purpose of this teaching, again, isn't to prove who the Antichrist is, even though I do believe he's in the world today. And I believe that because I believe we're living at the end of the end times. Therefore, if it is true that the Antichrist is in the world today, ready to take his place when the time comes, a year from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever that time is, the purpose of this teaching is to look at characteristics of the Antichrist before and after he is revealed. Even before the Antichrist steps onto the world scene, he will have certain special characteristics. And then when he takes his place in public, we will look at what he will do and how the world can know who he is. But at that point, the church is gone. We've been raptured and we won't be here during his reign of terror, and we can all thank God for that. But now let's look at 4 men in the world today who believe, or who many believe, could be the Antichrist. And then we will look at the Antichrist's special characteristics before and after he is revealed. So the 4 men who are the most searched online right now are Donald Trump, number 1, Elon Musk, King Charles III, and Emmanuel Macron of France. Now you may be familiar with all of those, or you may not be familiar with the fact that some people believe they're the Antichrist. But let me talk about the men and just some reasons why people believe. Again, the purpose of this is not to talk you into anything. It's just to say, here's why some people believe that these men could be the Antichrist. One of these men could be the Antichrist. Donald Trump. Let's start with him, President Trump. Master deal maker and political strategist. Brilliant. Very influential with Israel, recognizing Jerusalem as their capital and their rights to disputed land. And again, the Antichrist is going to be this man of peace who shows up and confirms this peace agreement with Israel for 7 years. And so because of President Trump's role today, major role with Israel, his favor with Israel, some people are saying, well, he's the Antichrist. He's a peacemaker in the Middle East with the Abraham Accords. He's made strides that others have not made before with the Arab world. Very charismatic and self-promoting, and the most powerful man in the world, and one of the wealthiest men in the world. Okay, so that's why some people believe it could be President Trump. Elon Musk, a very interesting character. He's the richest man in the world with unprecedented worldwide financial and political influence. Of course, he's over DOGE now, the Department of Government Efficiency, with tremendous influence in the United States, the largest economy in the world by far. He has unprecedented technological influence worldwide and owns some of the most powerful companies in the world, SpaceX, and also Neuralink. SpaceX is putting all these satellites into space, and I'll talk about that more in just a minute. Neuralink, which is this brain interface with technology that begins by helping people with, Parkinson's disease or neurological diseases and things like that, which is a wonderful thing. But also, they're looking at using Neuralink in devices like that to link the human brain to technology, to the cloud, literally making our brain into a computer at some point. He owns xAI, which is an AI company, and also Tesla. He also controls significant communication platforms and satellite networks. Of course, X, we know about that in social media, but Starlink. Now, Starlink has over 7,000 satellites in low Earth orbit, geosynchronous orbit, right now, with plans to put up to 42,000 satellites into orbit. This is by far the largest satellite network in the world today. And what Starlink has done is, right now, all over the world, you can make a phone call. A person in the middle of the ocean could make a phone call to a person on Mount Everest and sit there and talk, both internet and also phone calls. And so this is the most radical communications network in the history of the world by far, which covers, through satellite, every square inch on the globe, and will continue to expand. That is very powerful. Also, he promotes transhumanist ideals with merging technology with humanity, like Neuralink, and he's positioned as a visionary solving humanity's greatest challenges. And so he's a remarkable individual. And some people say, well, it's Elon Musk for those reasons. Number 3 is King Charles III. Now, it surprises some people that, King Charles be considered as a candidate for the Antichrist. Now, this has been around for a long time, but there's a book called The Antichrist and a Cup of Tea by a man named Tim Cohen. Now, if you try to get this on Amazon, it's out of print there. I actually bought a copy on Amazon and kind of paid a premium for it. But there is a website called prophecyhouse.com where Tim Cohen has a second edition of that book that he sells on his website, The Antichrist and a Cup of Tea. And he's talking about Prince Charles. And so his whole book, thick book, is talking about, why he believes that King Charles is the Antichrist. Now, before he was King Charles, he was Prince Charles. And again, according to Tim Cohen's book, Prince Charles of Wales is 666. In the Hebrew gematria, it comes up to 666. Now, Revelation 13 tells us that who has wisdom can calculate the number of the beast. It's the number of a man. The number is 666. Okay, that's part of his reasoning of why King Charles is the Antichrist. Also, the symbol of Wales is a red dragon. When Prince Charles went through his investiture as the Prince of Wales, he sat on a throne with his mother with a red dragon on the throne. Daniel 11:37 tells us that the Antichrist will not worship the God of his fathers, and he doesn't. He promotes kind of an interfaith dialogue, really syncretism, which means kind of a melding of faiths. Daniel 11:37 says that the Antichrist really doesn't regard any God, but exalts himself above them all. And interestingly, as the King of England, he is the defender of the faith, but his faith is very different than the traditional faith of his mother and his ancestors. Daniel 11:37 also tells us he doesn't desire women. And so it also, Daniel 11:37, the word there for women, a lot of people think the Antichrist is going to be homosexual because it says he doesn't desire women. But the Hebrew word there for women is the word isha. It occurs 780 times in the Old Testament, but 425 of those times, that's translated wife. In other words, you can translate Daniel 11:37, he doesn't desire women, but you can also translate it, he doesn't desire his wife. Interestingly, Prince Charles didn't desire Diana, Remember, he went with Camilla. And so he didn't desire his wife. Extremely wealthy with worldwide political influence. And so again, I'm not making the case at all. Back in the 1980s when I was pastoring, I pastored for 30 years. I had a man in my church using the same material basically that Tim Cohen is using. And he was teaching in my church that Prince Charles was the Antichrist, and he was setting dates and saying all kinds of things that were going to happen. I told him, you can't do that. You can talk about the fact that you think he might be, but you can't say he is. And he left the church because I wouldn't let him teach that. Well, this has been around since like the 80s, people believing that Prince Charles is the Antichrist. Number 4 is Emmanuel Macron. I've had people tell me for years to, kind of look at him, study him. Related to being the Antichrist, his name is interesting. Emmanuel, of course, means God is with us. Remember, they told Mary and Joseph, name him Emmanuel, God is with us. Macron means Mark. And so his name, God is with us, and Mark. Very charismatic leader with remarkable political skills. He has a background in banking and finance. He's a political centrist and is spiritually agnostic, and again, doesn't really worship any God. Supports a global government and a new world order, and also supports peace with Israel. So those are 4 people, 4 men, and people say, well, that could be the Antichrist.